Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second day of the Asia Solar Energy for Climate Change Conference, a platform dedicated to harnessing the power of renewable energy in our fight against climate change. This conference is organized by CarbonCare InnoLab and funded by the Jockey Club Charities Trust. My name is Claudia Lee, a sustainability communications producer and independent journalist, and I'm honored to be here today to moderate this panel. So for today, the topic of discussion is ensuring inclusivity, empowering vulnerable groups in the journey towards a just energy transition. The aim of this session is to firstly understand what groups of individuals in Asia are particularly vulnerable during the energy transition, and secondly, to highlight ways we can empower these groups. This session will include presentations from our 4 panelists, followed by a 10-minute moderated panel discussion, and then a 10-minute Q&A. So before we start, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelists. Firstly, we have Assistant Professor Dr. Arani Limini, Chair of Children, Youth and Women Section of the Disability Council of Thailand. Secondly, we have Mr. Augustin Bukanya, Founder, Chairperson of Global Youth Coalition. And then we have Ms. Tony Dominique Madulid, who is the Executive Director at Reboot Philippines. And last but not least, we have Ms. Wai-Fan Ho, Program Manager at CarbonCare InnoLab. So we'll start off with a sharing from Assistant Professor Dr. Arani Limini, who will be, I believe, sharing a video with us. So Assistant Professor Dr. Arani Limini is a former Deputy Rector of Thammasat University and Professor at the Faculty of Social Administration of Thammasat University Committee, and she's also on the Committee of the Anti-Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities, Advisor to the Association of Persons with Disabilities in Thailand, and the Committee on the Implementation of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in Thailand. I will pass it to her to share her learnings with us. Dr. Arani, would you like to start with the video or? Okay.
I will share my screen. So I have just short presentation.
Thank you.
Share. Now, can you see my screen? My PowerPoint. Can you?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you.
Already.
So I will make it big, full screen. Oops. Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Now you can hear me clearly? Okay, great. Thank you. Good afternoon. And it's my honor to be in this section and to know other speakers, including our lovely moderator. And my name is Aruni, and I got a Master of Social Work from Washington University, and I got bachelor degree from Thammasat University, and got my PhD in behavior science research in Thailand. And I'm also a wheelchair user, so I'm considered part of the vulnerable groups as a person with disabilities. And as we all know that the climate change can lead to disaster, and that's why I want to share with you about the inclusive DRR. I believe you are familiar with the term DRR, or disaster risk reduction, or DRM, disaster risk management, with the concept no one left behind, and person with disabilities must have full participation in all stages from policy to practice. Before 2004, we never experienced the severe disaster, but in 2004, then the tsunami attacked Thailand, and in the south of Thailand, and it's the first time we heard this word. Before that, we don't know what it's like, and then it was severely in the south of Thailand was severely damaged, and then in 2011 we also experienced another big disaster there's a big flood in Thailand. Every province of the country was seriously flooded, including Bangkok. This is some picture of the tsunami in Phang Nga and Phuket province. I believe you all know Phuket is a tourist attraction in Thailand, beautiful island, but at that time it was seriously damaged. And this is Bangkok. Can you believe? Even in Bangkok, it was flooded like this, and in other parts of the country also a lot of flood. We had to evacuate. I myself also evacuated to another place, to an evacuation center. And for us, person with disabilities, we have challenges because we cannot access the information fast enough, like person with sensory impairments like deaf or blind persons. The early warning system may be not reachable or accessible for them. So during emergency, time is very important. We have to be fast. So if they cannot know that there's emergency on time, then it can be dangerous, can be fatal damage. And some persons cannot communicate, so they don't know what's going on, and they don't know how to get support, to ask for help, then don't know how to communicate, like person with severe autism or person with intellectual disabilities, and then cannot communicate with others. And some people like myself who have mobility impairment or mobility limitation, we need support in the evacuation process. And what we face is the shelters or the evacuation centers. Sometimes some of them are not accessible. We cannot use, and we cannot use the facilities or services provided in the center, and cannot get the health care, like both physical and mental health care. And some people may need to change diaper, for example, if they have a severe physical disability, cannot control their bladder, then they need to change diaper. They need some private space. And this is the example of the evacuation center for when tsunami happened. But there are stairs, how can we get on the building? If we are a wheelchair user or the elderly, how can we climb up these stairs? And as we all know that during the tsunami, we have to go into higher place to be safe. And then how can we get on? We need some people to carry wheelchair and to carry us, but it takes time. We may die, both the supporters and the persons in need. So we have to prepare before and during and after the disaster. Before disaster, we have to identify who are with special needs in our village or in our community. And we must know where they live, where they work, where they go to school, and identify their risk, what kind of risk may happen to them. And we must know their needs, because even though they have the same disability, same type of disability, their needs may be different. So we have to identify. And this is the mapping. This is the training by UNDP, and I was one of the trainers. We went to the village in the south, in Phang Nga province, in the south of Thailand. This school and village, this school was used as evacuation center because it's accessible. It has the wheelchair toilet, it has lamp and everything, so we can use it as the evacuation center. And the villagers joined the training to visit the map that they were drawing to identify where the elderly live, where person with disabilities live, or like very small children or the infants, those with special needs, we have to identify in your community. And we have to provide information. Disaggregated information means we have to know who is with disabilities, and the early warning system must be accessible, and to prepare which route we will take, like will we go on foot or by car, by vans? We must have like the team, like get support from everything, every person in the community. Like if there's a small hospital in your community, then they can provide accessible vans for those with mobility impairment. And we should have the individualized emergency evacuation plan or IEEP. And for those who take medication regularly, then we have to prepare medicine for them for at least 3 days. And during these 3 days, we may be able to find them the medicine that they need. And the keyword is the full participation, like the deals, like this the fire deals for blind students. We have to do it regularly. And during the disaster, we may need special techniques or devices for evacuation, like there's something to carry or the vans or the routes that everybody can go together. And for deaf person, they need sign language interpreters. So there must be a deaf section with interpreters and with the big clear sign so that they can know where they can get support during the evacuation. This is the dignity kit. Why dignity? Because like women, when we have period, we need sanitary napkins. And if we don't have, it's awkward, right? So to respect dignity for women and for person with disabilities, we must provide this kind of things. Like I mentioned, the private space where they can change diapers. And when the earthquake happened in Nepal, the UNFPA provided these dignity kits like sanitary napkins and comb and underwear and sari, where people, when some people wear traditional costume, they need this costume. And these are the toys to make the children calm down when they are in the evacuation center. And after the disaster, we need to reconstruct everything, then have to make sure the reconstruction is accessible and the assistive devices might have been lost or damaged. So we have to replace or repair according to their needs. Like they may need the new wheelchairs or the braces or crutches, and also healthcare, both physically and mentally. And the keyword is universal design, where everybody can use. I'm not going through all these principles. I will give my presentation file so you can get it. I will give it as a PDF file. So, and the roles of the organization of person with disabilities are also important. I'm not going through this. If you want to discuss more or have more comments, we can do it later. And in Thailand, we have the government has the organization in charge of the DRR is called the Department of Disaster Prevention and Mitigation under the Ministry of Interior. And we also ratify and follow a lot of international laws and policies. You can take a look for the details in the internet, from the internet. And we have domestic laws and policies, our national policies, everything about DRR, including the disability inclusive DRR. Like we have the plan for empowerment of persons with disabilities, which include the DRR for the IDRR as well. And this is the deals that we, during the training that we went to Phang Nga province in the south, where we went to the school and villagers and students joined the training to prepare when an emergency occurred, like a tsunami. At that time, they did not have the student with disabilities, so we asked for a volunteer to act like a student with disability and make a deal like this. Big students like big brother is assigned one by one for kindergarten, younger kindergarten students. So when an emergency occur, then they have to find their own pair and carry and walk. They don't like, we ask them not to run, just walk firmly and then help the younger students. And the teachers, of course, are trained how to help. And this is not in Thailand, it is in Sweden, in a museum. I like this because this is the evacuation route. See the big door and the wide doorway where everybody can go together. This is the big sign, yeah, that you can see the person running and the wheelchair. So everybody can evacuate and can survive together. No one left behind. Thank you very much. Questions and comments are welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arnie. That was such an insightful and interesting presentation. And I think because it's so personal to you as well, it was especially like I really felt your passion for it. And it was really, really interesting to hear specific examples of what you are doing in Thailand for disaster preparedness, and really inspiring to hear that you are actually, I mean, people in Thailand are already doing a lot to make sure that vulnerable groups are more prepared for climate disasters. So yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. Up next we have Augustin Ocaña. He is the founder and chairperson of the Global Youth Coalition and a bioinformation published researcher. The coalition is dedicated to addressing climate change through innovative solutions in AI, metaverse technologies, as well as grassroots movements. Augustin also runs the Reforesting for Peace program, an initiative which trains global youth in impact creation, filmmaking, and social media to promote reforestation and peace building. I'll pass over to Augustin to share his presentation with us.
Hi, thank you so much, Claudia. And yeah, indeed, Arene was really not just interesting, but it fills my heart that there's this kind of movements and people supporting when we have these vulnerable groups in these catastrophes, we need to know what to do. And education is one of the ways of addressing this. Therefore, well, thank you for the introduction. I am Agustin Ocaña, the chairperson and founder of the Global Youth Coalition. How do we empower vulnerable groups in the journey towards a just energy transition? The Global Youth Coalition started at COP27. We had the opportunity, after a lot of works and during different years in national, then regional, and finally global, we end up talking with Antonio Gutierrez at COP27, addressing this question of education and how we can support the ongoing agenda and the SDGs. So just a brief introduction, who we are. Our mission is to educate, empower, and mobilize youth worldwide, equipping them with the skills, knowledge, and tools necessary to lead and advocate for effective climate action and sustainable development. We are the solar community from the future, living the future in the present and leading the pathway through concrete science-based conscious actions. And I want to emphasize a bit on this. As we were hearing before, it's important to educate, to advocate, but we need deliverables so people can learn from this. And when these open source projects, so everyone can use this kind of information. Our vision, what we are expecting in the future, is to pioneer the global network of empowered youth who actively engage in climate action by integrating cutting-edge technology with holistic approaches to ancestral knowledge. Is our ethos, because we believe on the knowledge that our ancestors were bringing, indigenous communities and all these originally tribes, that they know how to do things based on the time that they have been on a certain place. And we want leading to sustainable development through innovative solutions and collaborative efforts. So coming to the topic, inclusivity in climate action, I wanna first share a success case in Asia, specifically in the Philippines. I don't know if you guys know the Philippines People Survival Fund. How this was a success and why is important to learn from this kind of programs. Diverse participation, capacity building, again, education, transparency and accountability. Diverse participation. We always need to involve the community in planning and the implementation of whatever process that you are doing, even if it's in climate action or just in your neighborhood or in something that you are trying to achieve. If you do it with a community, with your closest network, there will be higher chances for you to success on what you are doing. Then focus on vulnerable groups, indigenous people, women, and low-income communities. Sometimes we focus on what we want, but we forget on who should we focus to achieve that and who should be receiving this kind of information. So what they did at the Philippines People Survival, if we see on the image on the left, they will be giving priority on present key biodiversity areas, high poverty incidents, climate-related hazards, and multiple climate-related hazards is what they were sharing there. So they were asking for submissions, and they were already sharing what they are expecting to see and who they are expecting to support. And this is really important because when you go community action-based driven, you succeed on not just helping people, but helping people that needs that help, with including them in your process of action. So I was really impressed by this specific success in Philippines, because while doing this, what they reached as an impact, they had an enhanced community, building resilience through projects like the flood control to, instead of, it's good that we are prepared for catastrophes, but it's also good that we think before they happen. So, and when we include the community, when we include the people, then we have this enhanced community with projects like flood control, sustainable agriculture, and mangrove reforestation that is connected with the floods and different other catastrophes, as most of us might know. Then we are also empowerment the local communities, because we want them to take ownership of the climate adaptation measures. Sometimes the youth is right now focusing a lot in global level or regional level, right? We want to solve the crisis, but we forget on this important, and we always hear it, no, like global thinking, local actions. Because when we go with the cities, when we go with our neighbors, we are adding value to this collective goal that we are all pursuing. And this project specifically inspired similar inclusive initiatives across Asia. So when you do good, more people will follow, and they will try to emulate what you are doing because they are seeing that it's working. So I invite you to check later on, not right now because I need you to pay attention, but please check the Agusan del Norte project. It was the construction of a communal irrigation system. Check how they did. And also, I suggest you to see how they approach the communities. It's always important to learn from these success cases. So going to GYC, to the organization that we work together with a lot of people from different countries, how we are approaching to inclusivity. As I shared before, we are always approaching cutting-edge technology with holistic approaches to ancestral knowledge, ensuring inclusivity in climate action. I want to emphasize a bit on the cutting-edge technology. Actually, wife phone personally helped us deliver in some of the technology that we were delivering to the planet. She took, it's super easy things like just a camera. The difference on getting and giving a NGO a camera can make a difference of how they communicate things. But when we just limit our thinking on myself, let's say, like in this example, for me, it's cheap to buy a camera because I live, let's say, in Hong Kong. But if you think in someone, I don't know, even just going to Philippines, it's not that far away from here, but the price and the chances of getting such a technology are not the same as if you live in Hong Kong. So that means inclusivity. When you are thinking that sometimes you are acknowledging that we have sometimes certain privileges, and we can support with these privileges to other communities. So is what we did, and thank you again, Waifun, for that. And how the other way that we are doing this in our programs with the Global Youth Coalition is we're currently focused that all our programs are in multiple languages at the same time. We invest a lot on real-time interpretation because not everyone speaks English. I don't know if everyone right now understands completely what we are speaking because we are sharing this in English. Not everyone has the chance to learn this language, even though, guys, that right now there's 100 applications to learn in, even like video gaming, you also learn a bit. Is how I learned, by playing video games when I was a kid. But just while having different approaches, even if you are just doing an Instagram post, try to do it in English, try to do it with your local language. And if you know there's another dialect, if you have the chance, include them as well, because this will increase your outreach, increase your impact. And again, you are taking in account communities that most of the time are vulnerable. So as you can see here and below, we have these different sessions, and each of them, this one is in Portuguese, this one is in Spanish, in English, and then we have in French as well. And this is open source. So if you want, you can go and check out our YouTube channel, the Global Youth Coalition, and there you can find our open source free training for social media and filmmaking. And if you want, you can also contact me if you want more information later on. So we did this during 1 year. What was the impact? After doing this, we had two options. Do it for free, just in English, and giving a lot of cameras to the people, or doing it for free in different languages, and we have a less amount of a budget for the rest of the assets. But it was a great decision, and I will always push as chairperson of the organization to go with open source multi-language programs, because we reach 5,000 people directly with their program. And then if they speak with their friends, this outreach increased a lot. Like doing some maths, we learned that during this year, our organization reached almost 1 million youngsters all around the planet, including Asia. Then right now we are sending digital kits to 800 youngsters that took our program, present in 100 countries. We delivered 15 cutting-edge tools, including the cameras I mentioned, also software. We have a cross-continental active collaboration for UN languages. We also have a gamifying concept that is called Ecoverse, because not everyone likes to be on this format of learning, right? So if we want to be inclusive, again, how I can deliver the information in another way for people to get interested. Then we also did one session in SB Bond 60, and we talking about vulnerable communities. We were honored to have youth community streaming directly from Gaza, a war zone that is, most of you might know. So we just did this with a bunch of youngsters like you guys, dreaming a lot, being like, it's an ambitious project. But when you do it, taking in consideration these steps that I was telling you, think inclusivity, go sustainable, plan things, and then do it. So we have this Reforesting for Peace. We expect to create a platform in the future. Other ways of addressing this kind of things is we launched actually our program at COP in Dubai. And then we go to policy making. So we first check about social media, and now we go with another kind of advocacy that we can do, because not everyone can go to COP or this kind of conference. But if you want to go and if you want to learn, there's programs like the one that we are assisting right now. And actually, with the Global Youth Coalition, we will be launching our second global project together with the Oxford University, and because it's how we think that we can address an effective transition in general. So again, I invite you to follow our social media. If you want to know and learn about this program, you can check this out. You also have another program for free in the Smith School from the University of Oxford. Is our first program as well. And then when you train, when you learn, you go to these conferences, not just to have the photo, but to know how you can address an impact. Who needs this impact? But you have to learn in advance, right? And then you build a community. This is our global community, the very first initial community of the Global Youth Coalition. Now our network reaches almost 14,000 people around the planet in 177 countries. And just to wrap up, how can I create an impact? Collective action is needed to ensure a just energy transition. Then second, support and invest in initiatives that empower vulnerable groups and promote the sustainable development. You can also join the Global Youth Coalition we want to lead this change towards a sustainable and inclusive future. And thank you so much. If you wanna, this is the link tree, my personal link tree. You can also check our website. And if you wanna send me an email, it's takeaction@theglobalyouth.co. Is a mistake there. If there's an E missing. takeaction@theglobalyouth.co. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I'm from Latin America, so it's really amazing to have the chance to talk with the Asian continent. But don't forget, I'm from Latin America, you're from Asia, but at the very end, we are just one planet, and that is a fact. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Augustine. That was really inspiring. It was so interesting to hear how you're using creativity and storytelling and tech to combine modern knowledge and ancestral knowledge into a program that really helps youth advocate for climate action and propel solutions to the climate crisis. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Up next, we have Tony Dominique Madulid. Tony works in the architecture industry and has a special interest in the nexus of human-centered design and tech innovation. And as the president and founding board member of Reboot Philippines, she leads like-minded youth in advocating for a just transition to renewable energy in the Philippines. Currently, Tony is working on climate-smart research for buildings and advocating for renewable energy uptake in the Philippines. I'll pass it over to Tony to share a video with us.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Good afternoon, everyone. I really resonated with the past presentation, especially on capturing narratives and then weaving this into stories and putting emphasis on localization that goes beyond just translation, but really making sure that it connects to the people on the ground as well as elevating this to a global audience. So I'll share with you a quick video and then let's talk about it afterwards. Can I just get confirmation that the video is up and the sound is on? I'll play it on.
Gusto po namin ng
Yes, we can hear it.
po yung aming samahan na mas pantay kaming sama-samang equal kung ano man ang kitain namin at maka-encourage pa ng ibang kabarangay.
Itong Barangay Malaya, malapit na kabuhayan dito ay agrikultura. Ayon, iniingganyo natin sila na makibahagi dito. Ano man ang pwedeng itulong ng impact tungkol sa agrikultura ay maibabahagi sila at magkakaroon sila ng mga pangkabuhayan.
Magagamit na po namin sa ibang pangangailangan yung pera na ibabayad namin sa kuryente. Tapos nakakapag-produce pa po kami ng iba't ibang produkto po na maibebenta po namin sa market.
Aware naman tayo na ang kinakaharap ng sektor ng agrikultura ay napakahirap. Kaya nga, isang malaking hamon na i-encourage ang mga kabataan na maging parte ng isang sektor na vulnerable. Kailangan natin na ipakita sa kanila na ang pagsasaka ay isang disenteng trabaho.
Sa kabataan po talaga, mas na-encourage sila pag may nakikita na sila na may nagagawa na ba talaga kami, yung project namin, napapaunlad na ba talaga namin. Kaya nag-encourage kami sa pamamagitan ng pinapakita namin na may ganitong project kami, may ganitong area kami pinapaunlad. Sa ngayon po, may dumadagdag na sa amin pa 5 member.
Nakaka-inspired na mapalibutan ka ng mga taong tumataya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay nila. Nakikita mo na ang iba-ibang sektor ng barangay ay nagsasama-sama para iangat nila ng pantay-pantay ang kanilang mga sektor.
Kinakailangan ng creation of just energy council sa bayan po ng Labo. At unti-unti, nag-uusap po kami ni Sir Kiel. Sabi ko, sige, tingnan lang natin, baka meron tayong performa ng organization structure ay padala po sa akin at mag-iimbita tayo ng mga taong ganoon din po yung paniniwala. Pagmamalasakit sa ating pong kalikasan. Ayon po sa ating gobernador, ibibigay din po niya kanyang suporta at siya po ay magdideklara din ng climate emergency sa ating pong lalawigan ng Camarines Norte.
Hindi ka naman pwede ng solo ka lang. Maganda rin po yung may sama-sama. Noon, nang hindi pa ako dyan kasama, parang ang babae pala hanggang bahay lang, luto, ganito, ganyan. Pero iba pala po pag nakasali ka sa isang ganitong samahan, kahit pa paano yung kaalaman mo na dadagdagan, kasi kung ano yung kaya ng iba, kaya rin pala ng babae. Tinuturuan ko rin yung aking mga anak, pagdating ng panahon, sila naman po ang susunod na yapak.
Ang pinapangarap ko na dito ay magkaroon ng madaming member, ang kooperatiba. Para ang kooperatiba ay hindi malusaw, dire-diretso ang kooperatiba na handang tumulong sa bawat isa na mamamayan natin dito.
Pinakapangarap po talaga namin dito ay magkaroon po talaga kami ng isang kinikilala talagang project ng mga kababayan, tapos makapag-supply kami sa iba't ibang lugar ng mga produkto na galing sa malaya.
Pinamulat po namin sa mga kasamahan naming kabataan na hindi porket magsasaka ka, wala kang nakikitain or wala kang magandang kinabukasan. Dahil po sa mga pa-training, pa-seminar, mas naunawaan po ng bawat isa kung ano po yung kahalagahan. Sa ngayon po, ang pangarap namin na dumami po kami kasi para po mas mapaunlad namin yung sakahan namin at yung mga project namin para lahat kami makinabang.
There we go. So I've switched screens and I'll just very quickly talk about the insights that we gained in that recently conducted project. It was just finished last month. It's the video that you've seen hasn't even been publicly shared yet. It's still a very giddy moment seeing all of the people that we've worked with be on video, be all prepped up and share their experiences of what has happened. So generally, how we envision just energy transition is to view it as not just, I mean, it's not just a fossil-free society in the future, but also a future that's inclusive and fair where no one's left behind. And just energy transition should be treated not just a strategy to basically contain or minimize the negative repercussions of climate change or climate change policies, but also taking this shift as an opportunity to address the current gaps and inequalities that we have. So beyond switching to renewables, a just energy transition for us requires changing consumption patterns, social practices, behaviors, investments, as well as regulations. So it's much more than just switching from one fuel to another. Since we see that just transition as a whole is primary for the people who are at the front line of the transition, and also for the members of society who be transitioning together, who's part of this change. And that whole ethos guides us in the pockets of activities that we do, ensuring that especially if you go through communities, their issues doesn't just go isn't just about energy. It goes through a plethora of institutional injustices that they've already been experiencing prior to the interaction, and meaning that addressing one segment of the issues that they're facing isn't enough for the transition that we'd want to see, but recognizing that the whole system needs to be interrogated, needs to be seen, and needs to be checked on what can be done. And as a simple framework that we use in understanding grassroots, community-based, co-developing solutions with the communities that we're partner with, we go by this empowerment framework. So recognizing that empowerment comes at the center, but may come in different forms. There needs to be a look on their agency, ensuring that the activities, the projects, and even the sustainability beyond the project is something that they can have a choice in. They can manage themselves. The institution that's bringing in the project, or in this case us, is just one part of introducing the whole intervention, but basically how it's going to be utilized and sustained should be something that is co-developed with the community themselves. There also has to be achievements, meaning the fulfillment of needs. So this takes away the idea of implementing a project for the sake of implementing a project, but making sure that it actually addresses the issues that they currently have, and not putting this in a vacuum, as I've mentioned a while ago, that just because our focus is on energy, we only try to look into their energy needs, but making sure that it's woven into their needs when it comes to livelihood, when it comes to agriculture, when it comes to the other issues that even though we may not have the answer to it, can be directed to other ecosystems beyond what our organization can cover. And then most importantly, the last step on the triangle is on the resources. So making sure that all of the structures that are needed for them to actually bring this change is present, as well as the opportunities that can be opened because of the intervention that is there. It also requires a lot of co-ownership, ensuring that whatever that is shared can be something that they can grow themselves and continue regardless of the presence of the organization that's there. And briefly, what we do, the story that I've shared is just one component of the whole organization that is doing. So I'd take this opportunity to introduce Reboot Philippines. Reboot Philippines Renewable Energy Transition Institute, as our name suggests, aims for 100% renewable energy in the Philippines. But our methodology acknowledges the need for different sectors, emphasizing that the urgency for different disciplines responding to the equally complex climate crisis should have a membership from the government, from the academe, from journalists, from young farmers, from engineers, from those that are in the background of social sciences. So it's a common notion that when you talk about energy, it is contained among policymakers as well as engineers. But the discussion of energy, electricity being a fundamental human right opens this discussion to everybody who maximizes, utilizes, and benefits from energy security. And going beyond that, what the video that I've shared just falls into the component we have on policy development. Since a Just Energy Transition Council was formed, it may fall into the capacity building. But basically the whole roster of what the network, what the organization does is on developing knowledge products on just energy transition. We train youth to lead just energy transition advocacies. We influence policies on a local and subnational level for programs towards just energy transition, as well as mobilizing local networks to maintain the just energy transition action that's there. I will end my presentation there, but happy to discuss further.
Thank you so much, Tony. It was really inspiring to watch the, on the ground initiatives and how passionate and resilient people were in the community to really, really make a difference. I'm sure that your work will continue to echo throughout the community, and I'm excited to hear more about it later. So last but not least, we have Wai-Fan Ho, who is the program manager of CarbonCare InnoLab. So Wai-Fan is an environmental policy specialist with a master's degree in social policy. She has extensive experience in climate policy due to her diverse research projects that she worked on during her tenure at multiple universities. She is also a graduate of CarbonCare InnoLab's 2023 Climate Advocacy Training for Youth program. Wai-Fan focuses on climate and energy policy in her research. So I'll pass it over to her to share some of her insights. Thank you, Wai-Fan.
Thank you, Claudia. And thank you, Irene, Augustine, and also Tony's very inspiring presentation. And also good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fan from CarbonCare InnoLab. And CarbonCare InnoLab is an environmental NGO based in Hong Kong. And that we focus on promoting climate justice by bringing together different stakeholders, building partnerships to achieve a just transition. And I'm really happy to be here today to share a little bit about the case of Hong Kong. And I'll talk about a little bit of the history. Back in December 2022, we have published the first ever report on Hong Kong just transition. And then we didn't develop this report in isolations. Rather, we have more than 10 in-depth committee dialogues and engaged with over 1,000 different organizations from across various sectors. And then we have drawn a conclusion highlighting that the limitation in the official climate action plans and strategies when it comes to certain groups, such as the outdoor workers and also the people with disabilities and those who live in subdivided flats. And I didn't prepare the PowerPoint, but I can show you about the report. And it is really hard to summarize the report in brief. So please do check out the full report on our website. But today I want to highlight 3 key points that I think will give you a better understanding about the just transition situation in Hong Kong. And first, I think I really want to highlight the unique challenges of energy poverty faced in Hong Kong. And I think many people outside Hong Kong, or even for the locals, haven't really heard much about the energy poverty in Hong Kong before. But actually in Hong Kong, the climate, the energy systems, and also the living environment all came together in Hong Kong, really creates a unique landscape of energy poverty. And then for one, we have the subtropical climate. So we are dealing really hot, humid summers. I think Augustine can feel it now, right? And actually the temperature averaging around 28 degrees. And with the humidity level around 75%. And also, it is important to note that Hong Kong is a really condensed urban cities. So the urban heat island effects makes the situation even more worse, particularly for those who live in really crowded and harsh living conditions, like the people from the rooftop houses, cage homes, and what I've mentioned before, the subdivided flats. And now we have around 230,000 people are living in 110,000 subdivided flats now in Hong Kong. And I'm not sure if you have the concept about what subdivided flats in Hong Kong are, but you can imagine the average living space per person is only around 60 square feet. It's about half the size of a parking lot. And these places are often like poorly ventilated and with a really bad drainage and wastewater systems. And with the climate change, we all experience that. The extreme weather conditions are just getting more frequent and more intense. So it puts a really huge challenge for them to just trying to stay cool and more comfortable in their homes. So adding to this challenge, Hong Kong's two main energy companies raised their energy price dramatically last year. And like if you are living in New Territories or Kowloon, your electricity bill probably went up by almost 20%. And for those who live in Hong Kong Island, the increase was nearly 50%. That's a huge increase, I know. And the impact of climate change like have fallen disproportionately on our most vulnerable communities. Just like I mentioned about the subdivided flats, they are actually too afraid even to turn on the air conditioning because they simply just cannot afford the high electricity bills. And we really see the health problems emerging as a result of these high temperatures, like the indoor heat stroke. And it is getting worse because most of these subdivided flats tenants are being overcharged for their electricity, either through the unauthorized meters installed by the landlords or by being forced to pay inflated fee directly to the landlord instead of the utility communities. So we can see this like distributional injustice in Hong Kong, and it really needs a targeted policy and also intervention to support these vulnerable populations. And this brings to my second point. I think it is really important that we understand why including and supporting these vulnerable groups is so crucial for achieving a just transition. We all know that climate change doesn't affect everyone equally, but we also need to know that these groups are also underrepresented in the climate decision-making or the policy making process. For example, like we do have the electricity subsidy scheme for the underprivileged family in Hong Kong, but it just haven't really benefit for those vulnerable groups because they do not have the independent electric meters. So what if we had people from those vulnerable communities sitting inside the decision-making tables? We could have designed the scheme or the policy much better for them. And that's why when we set out to explore what a just transition really means to Hong Kong, we think we really need to make it more inclusive. So we designed to facilitate a community dialogue, bringing together diverse stakeholders, including those from the vulnerable communities that we have mentioned, the subdivided flats, and also the people with disabilities, and also the outdoor workers. And we used an approach named Lower Dialogue approach, which is all about creating a safe and inclusive space for an open and respectful discussions. And through this process, we are able to really listen and understand the specific needs and challenges faced by these vulnerable groups. And so it can really help us to understand them more. So to achieve the procedural justice, inclusiveness is not just something nice to have, but it is absolute essential elements. So it has to be embedded into the just transition process from the very beginning and also sustained throughout the whole implementation process. And because this can help us to ensure the policies and also the solutions we advocate are truly meet the needs of the most vulnerable groups. So after finished all the community dialogues, we have to publish this just transition report in Hong Kong. But the last point I want to point out is about, I really want to pay tribute to the vulnerable communities that we have engaged with throughout the journey. Because like our topic today is about empowering vulnerable groups in the path towards a just energy transition. But the truth is, in the process of empowering them, we have been equally empowered by them. I just want to quote as an example from the report. Mr. Wong, who is living a teeny subdivided flat and with visual impairments, and during the extremely hot summer, the indoor temperature is normally 5 to 6 degrees higher than outdoor, so which is really unbearable for them. And he couldn't even open the window for relief, but he still hesitated to turn on the air conditioner. Okay, not just because he couldn't afford it, but also he mentioned about he knows that it was not good for the climate. So the fact is that the individual, he's facing significant personal challenges, but he's still deeply committed to take the climate action and also want to be part of the solution, and which is really motivate for all of us. So after the report, we keep doing the committee dialogue, and the recent committee dialogue we held in Kwai Chong, where we invited residents to work together on a heat map of their neighborhood. Like we did a lot of research before the committee dialogues, but like no matter how much we have done beforehand, the insights and the unexpected hotspots identified by the committee members during the dialogue was invaluable. And I think they also think they share a lot of traditional wisdoms and also the practical solutions for like how to deal with the heat. And so I know that I see from the question as well, I know that some may doubt about the inclusiveness and also the effectiveness of policy makings. And we do think it is a subtle issues with both like short-term and long-term factors to weight. But the key takeaway I want to leave you with today is like the three elements of climate justice. It is about the distributional injustice, the procedural justice, and also the recognition justice. We recognize the disproportionate impact experienced by the vulnerable groups, but we also recognize their wisdoms and their important roles that play in the decision-making process. So we think the vulnerable groups we work are not just only like passive recipients of our efforts, of our work. They are also our partners in this crucial journey towards a just transitions. So I do think the inclusiveness is really a key for achieving the just transition. I know we are running out of time, so I will stop here and hand it back to Claudia.
Thank you, Waifan. Yeah, it's really, really insightful and also very inspiring to hear about the community dialogues, especially. Like the fact that you're really trying to integrate different and diverse perspectives into the dialogue so that the policy can be accommodated to vulnerable groups is really, really meaningful. And I'm sure that your work will benefit a lot of the vulnerable communities in Hong Kong. So yes, like you said, we are running tight on time. So instead of going to the moderated discussion, I'll go straight to the Q&A. Because I do see that some of the questions here overlap with the points that I wanted to bring out. So I have already selected 2 questions. And for these questions, all the panelists can feel free to input and discuss. So the first question is about technology. And the question is, AI technology is booming. How do you all see that technology can help in the inclusivity aspect?
Yeah,
Anyone want to start?
I would love to answer
Augustine.
that. Actually, at the Global Youth Coalition, we are empowering the proper conscious use of AI, because there's a bit of mysticism and ignorance that is also okay because it's a new technology that we are all, humanity is learning how to use it. So I encourage you to do so, like just dive into these services or websites or applications. because there's no harm of using technology for doing good without doing more harm, you know, like it's also important because sometimes we use technology in the wrong way. We wanna cover a hole by creating a new one, creating a new problem. So for ensuring this is not happening with AI, we need to involve ourselves and using it for the good. So it's how I suggest to do it. It's a powerful tool, and my personal experience is that AI makes my life not just easier, but more accurate on my goals.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah,
I do
go ahead.
I do like to echo Augustine's answer. I absolutely agree the technology and AI have really an important role to play in like addressing the climate crisis and also like supporting the just transitions. For our project during the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw how the virtual platforms enable our community dialogues to continue even when the in-person gathering were not possible. So I do think the technology plays a really important role for like to access to different platforms and to share their experience as well. But just like what Augustine said, that it depends on how we use it. And we always bear in mind that the vulnerable groups that we always work with, they may not have the stable access to the internet, and also they may not know how to use the technology and also the AI. So it is important to like provide them some trainings on how to use the technology as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Training and accessibility is really, really important. Like what Arnie said before, also about making it, adapting it to vulnerable individuals and catering it to their specific needs. So let's move on to the last question. Okay, so this question is about again making sure that inclusivity is considered. So with the movement in civil society shrinking in recent years, and with different political obstacles in each culture and country, the leave no one behind principle is getting difficult. Are there any suggestions to continue our action in this challenging environment? So I guess this participant really wants to understand with the political obstacles and different cultures in Asia, how do we make sure that we're all around inclusive?
May I take this question?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Because I'm as part of the civil society in Thailand, we try to work together among vulnerable groups. So we form network so that our voices can be stronger and louder. Like women with disabilities also work with the women's movement and network, and also a person with diverse with various sexual orientation, and we form network because we tend to have to experience discrimination, so we work together and form network and make it stronger. And like in my slide that talk about the roles of the organization of person with disabilities, yeah, that include the roles that we have to educate the society and have to get coalition from and understanding and awareness raising for the public, so that they are aware of our rights, and that they are aware that disability rights are human rights, and like person with sexual orientations, diverse sexual orientation are also human rights. So I would say together we are stronger. That's a suggestion.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. Collective action and collaborative action is so important. And like Augustine said earlier as well, ultimately we are one planet. And so we need to work together. Unfortunately, this is comes to the end of, oh, Tony, did you have a point you wanted to make?
Yeah, just very quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
it also answers actually the question on top of that on how do you if it's necessary to include the voices. So apart from what Dr. Aruni mentioned on mass building, it's also very important to institutionalize the spaces where vulnerable groups can have a say within policy making. Consultation is one thing, but making sure that it's written on paper that you have to be consulted, or better yet, you have to have a seat on the decision-making table, is as important as what the narratives are outside of those that are making the decisions themselves. So it really goes hand in hand, because sometimes the space to be able to have a say at the table isn't present. So you do need to build your network, your movement to ensure, to show that there is a voice that needs to be included in the discussions.
Yes, 100%. I agree with you. Really making vulnerable voices heard and making sure that they have a seat at the table is really important, and that it can't just be tokenization. It really needs to be implemented properly. So unfortunately, we are coming to the end of the panel. And I would like to thank all of our lovely panelists, Dr. Arane, Augustin, Tony, and Weifan, for such insightful presentations, and also for all of your work in empowering vulnerable communities so far, and I'm sure that you'll continue to do so. Also, thank you to CarbonCare InnoLab and Jockey Club Charities Trust for sponsoring. This is the end of the panel, so thank you all for participating.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, one